My name's Sasha Pete, and I'm joined by a fantastic individual. This man scored goals for fun, both at Adelaide City and Perth Glory and for the Socceroos. And at one time held the record for the fastest goal ever scored in a game of football. None other than the great Damian Mori. Damian, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Damian, tell us, how did you fall in love with our great game?
I don't know about falling in love. I think my dad was my main influence. My dad played it as a junior for himself, where he came from back in Slovenia, and I think, his love for the game was given to us, and I don't think we had a choice really. And lucky for that he did push us that way, and he gave us the right skills that were necessary to go on with it and to forge, somewhat of a good career.
So it's nice that you honour his love for the game. So you're a Melbourne boy. Where did you first play your junior football?
Box Hill. It was an English club. Yeah, I think it's changed now a couple of times, or one or two times there. That was a good club. I was fortunate enough that I think as I was growing up, I was always at Box Hill, and then I got an opportunity early on there. I mean, it wasn't one of there was a good club in the old state league, but wasn't one of the best. So my opportunity came at a younger age. So I think I was fortunate in that respect, and I think like I said, it was a good club to me. I did well there, and then it gave me the opportunity to play senior football at an early age.
So because I remember your early days at the Melbourne teams, because I'm also a Melbourne boy, and I don't remember you being up front for those teams. So as a junior, where did you play on the park?
No, I was always a striker. Okay. What happened was, I was at South Melbourne, so that's where it changed. So when I was at South Melbourne, not South Melbourne, Brunswick Juventus, under Terry Henderson it was. I came from Box Hill. I was a front runner. I'd always played as a junior. I was always top goal scorer. I used to score minimum 50 goals in a season as a kid. Okay. So I was always going through. I went through state teams as a striker as well. But then I went to Brunswick, and I went through a real poor patch in my playing days. And the opportunity came that one of the right fullbacks got injured. And at that time, I'd left South Melbourne to go back, and he put me into right fullback.
Okay.
And then from fullback, probably my career kicked off again. I went back, I could go. I went back into NSL, made the Olympic team, debuted for Australia, all at fullback. So, but I was naturally always a striker. I went through, like I said, that patch where I got put back into a fullback because it was the only position that was available to play.
Yeah, that's quite a sort of a perverted story, but it's interesting how you find the crevices in a team, and just to play football, you contribute. So as a junior, you're at Box Hill, you're scoring goals for fun. And do you remember your first senior game? Was it for Box Hill?
Yeah, of course.
How old were you?
I think 16. I played up front with another young guy as well. He was, I think, the same age. And I reckon it was Bill Murray was the coach. And I think the club obviously had some financial problems, and we were in the reserves. And at that time, I was with the state team as well.
Yep.
And then he gave us an opportunity to play up front. And
there
I was fortunate enough to go on with it.
So we're talking, you're 16, so we're talking about roughly 86-ish. And how did you make your way to South Melbourne?
Again, that's funny, because I was at Box Hill at the time. A new coach came in, and this happens even now. I mean, me being involved with coaching, I didn't suit the way that he liked at Box Hill. And then I'm trying to think what happened there. I went to South Melbourne and played in the youth team.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. It's a long time ago. So I went to the youth team, played in the reserves. I left Box Hill, and then Brian Garvey was coach. And then in the off season, I was there for about half a season. Then in the off season, they weren't playing all the first team players in this pre-season cup, Ampol Cup, I think it was.
Yep.
And that's when Brian Garvey brought up some of the youth players. I was one of them. We played in the Ampol Cup. And then I did all right. But as it turned out, they were only picking, I still remember this, only ever picking one of the young kids to be part of the first team. And that was Bill, I think he's Bill Chiakos. And he got selected and I went back down to the youth team. And this is how lucky football is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bill's playing in his first game and he would have been in the first team. He broke his leg.
Oh, wow.
In a tackle, severe tackle. I got promoted back up and that was my break. You know, so someone's unfortune was my good fortune, so to speak. And, you know, his leg breaking gave me an opportunity to come back to first team. I started playing more and more under Brian. He was really positive with the young players. He liked us. And, you know, I got a good opportunity there to play under him. So
we're talking about South Melbourne's, at that time, you've got multiple past Socceroos, current Socceroos in the squad. You know, it's still we're talking in the late 80s, you know, up to 90. It's a decent squad. Who are some of the characters that you remember that looking up to, maybe past Socceroos that were in that side?
Well, there's a lot of Socceroos because Paul Wade was in there at the time, Mickey Peterson, you had Trimboli, Peter Talakis, who was always a laugh. They had a very good squad in that era. I only was there for 2 seasons because that's when, after the Brian Garvey era, Ferenc Puskas came as the coach. And then that's when I had some issues there. Not issues, because for me as a player, I was a bit stubborn. I just wanted to play. And Ferenc Puskas, we played in another tournament and I'd played again all the games and then came to see final. He told me that at the final, I was out for the final. And as I was a bit stubborn this time, I questioned him. And he said, "You're young, you've got plenty of time." And I said to him, with all due respect, I'm young, but I don't have a lot of time. And I left under him. So I only got to experience South Melbourne in those, probably for 1 year there. And like I said, the boys were fantastic. Peter Salakis was probably the funniest guy. You know, he was small in stature, but big in character. And he was just a great guy to have in the changing rooms.
And I think you went across, you head across the Sunshine George Cross, so the team that I'm involved with now. So and you spend the season there. What do you remember about the old George Cross ground? Because it's quite iconic there across the road from the railway station.
See, I missed that one. I actually went to the one where they had the running. We were at the football oval.
Okay.
There was so look, the thing with Sunshine George Cross was I think Ernie Merrick was there at the time. And again, the good thing about the old NSL was you had your clubs which were financially strong and the ones that weren't so. And the ones that weren't financially strong gave a lot of opportunity to young players. And Ernie Merrick, I think at that time, brought on quite a lot of young players. It gave a lot of young players a good opportunity to play, which, again, he picked me up and gave me the opportunity to play, and he was the one who put me back up front as well. So George Cross was more towards the times that I was involved, weren't, like I said, financially stable. So they were more of a feeder club for the younger players. And I think, you know, clubs like that have actually brought that much to the game because you can go through. Trimboli was there at the time.
John Markowski.
You had some of the great players. Lawrence Kidner. I don't know if you remember. I don't think people remember. He was one of the...
No, I do remember Lawrence because Lawrence, after his time in Belgium, came to play at my local club, Western Suburbs. So really? I know Lawrence.
Yeah, you know, people don't understand that the importance of these clubs, you know, and like I said, not everybody can be the best club, and these smaller clubs actually survive off giving the younger players opportunity, and probably that's what, again, if you went to the game today, that you're missing that at the moment, you know. And the more clubs, it's not always about winning, it's about the development side, and these clubs always did struggle a little bit, but they did bring through a lot of good players.
And so you're sort of hopping around. So it's South Melbourne, it's George Cross, and then I think you went across he spent also some time at Croatia as well.
You missed the club.
So I missed the club.
So I went from South Melbourne back to Brunswick because I thought Brunswick were going to get promoted.
Oh, right.
And then from Brunswick, when I went to fullback, I had a decent season. That's when I went to George Cross. And then from George Cross, because we were playing split seasons, I went from George Cross in the off-season, played Bulleen for an on-loan period. And then from Bulleen, I went to Croatia.
Okay, all right. And so was that just to get match fitness, or was it off-season, or?
I just think you needed to play. I enjoyed playing, and I think, I ended up playing full seasons year after year without stopping, and I think that was a benefit to me as well. I think the more games you play, the better it is for you. And I think probably coming from Bulleen to Croatia, at the time, that was a big step because Croatia was one of the top 2 clubs.
Yes.
And so again, Kenny Murphy was coached there.
Yeah,
I had some good fortune, some bad fortune for some others. I think I came in at the squad when they were doing really. You had Francis Waratifi up front. You had Ivan
Kellich. Yeah.
And then that incident happened. I don't know if you remember when the incident happened in that game where he got his jaw broken.
Okay, no, I don't remember that.
Your time, I don't know that.
No, it's not before my time. But
I think one of the players whacked him.
Okay.
And so I was on the bench at the time, and then when he broke his jaw, got his jaw broken, it gave me an opportunity to play. And I think I'd scored then 9 goals in 10 games. And then I was part of that squad from then on. So again, in my career, and I think in a lot of people's career, you always need a little bit of luck. And at that time, again, bad luck for one, good luck. It was good luck for me. And I took the opportunity.
So, and I remember so Martic recounting the move, how you came across.
How did he remember? Because I remember it differently.
So he said that. Okay, so he said that a relative of yours, either your father or your uncle, called him and said, "Listen, you feel that you would suit his style of play and you wanted to come across." And he was like, "Okay, well, if Damian wants to go, I'll have a look at him and we'll see." So it's how he recounts the story. So how do you
remember? Could have been the story, but what happened was we were at '92 Olympics.
Okay.
And Zoran obviously was well regarded. And we, back in Barcelona when we were there, he came to the Olympics to watch some games. And at that time, I had my now wife, she was my fiance, we were going out together. And he came to Perth, and one of my good friends was Carl Veert at the time. Mm-hmm. So Carl and I were quite close, and then we started talking, and he said if I was interested to come. So I'd actually spoken to Zoran when we were away.
Okay.
And then we said we'd wait till obviously we got back from the Olympics. And then as soon as I got back from the Olympics, I'd made the move. And listen, to be fair, it was the best move I'd ever made. Yes. Great place, great people, great club.
And a very sort of stable. You look at sort of Zoran's type of style. You would always just bring maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 3 players in a year. You try and keep it consistent. And your goal ratio was just huge there in the years that you were there. You were scoring, like from memory, you'd score, if not every game, it'd be every second game on average, right? A goal. What are some of the quirks that you remembered about Zoran's coaching methods?
You say that, you were saying about players coming and, you bring 1 or 2 players in. You'd probably bring 3 and 1 would be lucky to make it. I mean, it was a very difficult team to come and play in. I had my run-ins with Zoran because I had once said it's like playing as a robot, finding it very difficult. But in hindsight, reflecting on what he'd done, he actually made the game quite easy for us as players. He had these structures in place, he has patterns of play. And, you talk about the game now, actually he was ahead of his time because the stuff that we did back then, they're actually implementing in all the coachings in the last 5-6 years, yes. Or last 10 years. So he'd already done that just in a different way. So Zoran was always one that it was all about the team. he was the boss. But I think deep down he was a gentle giant. He was fantastic. You know, people really looked at the guy. If you looked at him at the game, he'd be very serious. But outside the game, there's not a player here that he hasn't helped to get ahead. And like I said, I had a story about him that we were playing. I was a carpenter. So when I first came here, I was carpentry. And obviously Zoran being in the building game, we had the game Friday night. And I was building my house here because we're getting married. And the Saturday morning, he'd organised this crane, and there's him, me, and my carpenter that I was working with putting my roof on. You know, that's the sort of guy that he is. And he was a workaholic, but he was just a great guy. He is a great guy.
So the first those years, so you're featuring in the Olympic team, like you said. You played for the but was it your time the time in Adelaide when you first made the national team, or was it a transition easy from the Olympic side across to the national team?
What happened was back then, it's I think similar to now with Graham Arnold being the Olyrood coach. Eddie Thompson was the Olyrood coach and the national team coach. And at the time at the Olyroos, we were all doing quite well. There was quite a lot of us that went from Olyroos, and we went within the same. As soon as we came back from Olyroos, I think there was a game. I'd be lying, I can't remember, but within the next month or 2 months. And we were all selected up from the Olyroos. So we came quite early. So it was just a transition, which is, I think, what Arnie's looking to do with this Olyroo team now. I
mean, you think about that Barcelona team, that was a quality side. You know, some of the characters. So firstly, who did you room with in when you were in Barcelona?
Carl. Yeah.
And so you had Carl, you had Zelic in that side. Who were some of the other characters?
Yeah, Paul Ocon. You had Milan Blagojevic, you had David Seal. A lot of these players were really good at that time. John Markowski was there. Bosnich was in goals. Johnny Filan was there. There was heaps. Popovic was there.
Yeah. So star-studded really, and the but you know, you're still young boys. You know, Zelic was going to play overseas at that time. You know, or starting to make it, and then Bozza hadn't sort of gone onto the.
Bozza was at Man United at that time, right. And Zelic was just about to get signed. He had signed at the Olympics for Borussia Dortmund. So, and Paul Ocon was at Club Bruges. The thing was with that squad, they're all big characters, big names, Bozza included. So, what you found with a lot of that squad is that most of them had a minimum of 50 senior appearances. So we were quite mature in playing, maybe young in age, but a lot of the boys had a lot of football, senior football, which made that squad quite strong and powerful. And I think, again, I could just reflect on this squad that's going at the moment, the Olyroos. I think the same things happen. If you look at their squad, majority of those players have all played minimum maybe 20, 30 A-League games. So they're quite season hardened players, which makes it like I said, a better squad, not an immature squad for the big games.
You spend a number of years at Adelaide, and then you get a move across to Germany. How did that come about?
Yeah, so we were at it was an African tournament. There was South Africa, Congo, I think it was Kenya. There was 4 squads, and we're playing in this tournament, and I get a call from an agent, and I thought it was the boys, as you do in squads, taking the mickey out of us. And it was an agent that was in Europe. He rang me up and he said that he had a couple of clubs interested to go play. One was an Italian club and one was the German club. And I thought he was taking mickey. He goes, look, I'm in wherever he was in Switzerland. I'll be there in 24 hours. And I thought he was joking. And then I get a knock 24 hours later at my door, and there's an agent with 2 offers on the table. And, you know, like I said, I almost turned it down because Europe wasn't a major thing for me. But again, my wife and I discussed, and she was probably the one that pushed harder to go there because at the time she was pregnant with our kids. So yeah, but it was a great move. Like I said, that opportunity came, and I took it, and I learned a lot from it.
The what did you find? Was there a ceiling to come across, like the number of foreigners at the time that could play in the side at any given moment? Was that?
I think we had the 3 foreign rule, so I was one of the foreigners, and the club that I went to was struggling at the time. And look, to be fair, I didn't do that well. I think, you know, my expectations, what you thought and what you grew up with, you know, like playing here, I found it a lot easier playing here. Like I found it easy to play here, where some players come and find it hard, and then going to Europe, you know, conditions, maybe my attitude could have been a bit better, you know, a bit more hungry to succeed. I think I enjoyed it, but I really didn't embrace the whole opportunity. Like when I went there, they told me you need to learn to speak German, and I probably didn't take the opportunity. And that's the advice, you know, that I learned from my own mistakes, that you need to embrace the country that you go to in order for them to accept you. And I probably didn't do that well. I worked hard, then the right opportunity didn't come along. The team was struggling, and I'm a striker, not scoring goals, so that didn't help either.
So was it the 93-94 season that you bagged with Adelaide City? The you guys won that year?
93-94. I should know that. I think I got married in 94. So we won it in 94.
So so that's your first sort of success as a senior player. Is that, would you say that you know, you're playing for the national team, but in terms of club success, do you? I mean, that was a fairly good side. So let's go through some of the characters that are in that Adelaide City lineup, even before, after you went to Germany.
Well, you had Milan Ivanovic was there, great player for Australia. You had Alex Tobin. I think Tony Vidmar was there that year, because we had a few. Carlo Teladira we still catch up now. Quite a lot of us still catch up. Joey Mullen was involved. Good friends with Joey now. I don't know. Was it Bradley Hassel was playing then? I'm poor with my memory, but again, like I said, let me have a look. Wait a second. I'm just looking at a photo now with everyone. Serge Melter was there.
Well, what an engine, Serge Melter.
Yeah, we had Robbie Zabika. Actually, there was quite a lot of young boys on the bench. Lozanovsky was there. Gee, it's bringing back some memories now. Steve Maxwell, I reckon, was there as well. Yeah, so it was, like I said, it was a great squad.
So how did the front? How did you fit up top with you got Stevie Maxwell, Joe Mullen, yourself? So where do you occupy the spots?
Joey dropped back into midfield at that time.
Okay. All right.
Steve used to play a more holding role. If Maxie would play, Bradley Hassel. So the thing that we were fortunate enough in those times, there was always I was a striker that used to play on the shoulder and play really high up, where like Bradley Hassel, Bobby, we bring up Bobby, you can bring up Steve Maxwell. They were all players that played short and in pockets. So it was always complementary to each other. We never really played with 2 strikers that were out and out shoulder players. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't work.
Yes. So sort of the traditional 9, and then the sort of the 10 or the 9.5, if you want to call it, right? Yeah. So striker and a centre forward is trying to play off each other. Okay, so so many games, and I detect you're a Melbourne boy, but you definitely got that Adelaide accent. So
have I?
Yeah, I think so. You spent so near on 9 or 10 seasons at Adelaide City. So would you?
What did I do? Well, I in between. So I came in after the Barcelona Olympics in '92, and then I went to Germany. So I left about 8 seasons. I was here because I left Germany for 1 season, and then I left, I think, '99 to go to Perth Glory.
And who did your roommate when you? So who was your roommate at Adelaide City when you're traveling across to Melbourne or Sydney, or did you fly in and fly out?
No, we depended. So early on was with Carl Viet, and then he obviously went overseas, and then moved with Jason Pekovic, which good friends with still now. We keep in touch. So he's still in Perth, and then he commutes. Actually, his wife's back here for a little bit, so he commutes back and forth. So I still catch up with him. And then again, it's surprising because Joey Mullen, I'm very close with now. Paul Schillerbeer, they were the older brigade when we were playing, so we sort of we got on well together, but never like good friends. Now we're golfing, we play golf together every week, and so it's surprising how things change as you get older.
And so walk me through as that time you scored that goal. I think it was like 94, 95, and you're at kickoff as you've just pinged it.
Have a look if it's here.
So what's going through your mind? So and you're just going, okay, I'm going to hit it from kickoff, because I think it was 3 seconds or 3.5 seconds or something. It was just the amount of the flight of the ball.
Bradley Hassel was up front with me at the time, and for some reason that I think it was Parrish was off the goals. He was off his line, and I just said, if he stays off his line, I'm just going to shoot. And I never thought about it after that. And I took the shot and it went in. So yeah, it was I think it was a bit more blurred than what I thought. It was never pre-planned. It was
okay. Spur of the moment.
Yeah, it was something that I saw him off the line, and I just decided to hit it. So
okay, that's glorious. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people think, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this, right? But be able to ping it from the halfway line and then lob the keeper just at the right level to go in the goals, it just sailed in, and I think it across the line without bouncing. So it was quite a spectacular goal, and it created a storm. That video went viral around the world. People were
people were trying it before games. I still remember. I think we had South Melbourne the following week, and there's Nicky Peterson trying to hit it as well. You try things. I think if you thought about it more and more before the game, you probably wouldn't have done it. So it was more a spur of the moment thing, and fortunately for me, it came off.
Fantastic. You held that record for many, many years until it was broken in a similar vein, pinging the ball from the halfway line. So you were Guinness Book World Record holder for many, many years of the fastest goal ever scored in a game of football. I think that game finished 2-2 against Sydney, Croatia.
That's right.
Yeah, 2-2. So your time, would you, looking back in your career now, would you say that Adelaide City, and you've gone back there to coach, sort of you circled back to Adelaide City a number of times, would you say that Adelaide City is your home?
I would have said that a while ago. Look, I coached there. I came back and coached for 15 years, but I had a good friend there when Bob Latavi was running. I was chairman or president, so I had a lot of loyalty to him at the time. So I enjoyed my time. Like I said, it created a lot more things outside the game as well. Adelaide City's been fantastic, not just for me on the park, but off the park as well. The people have been fantastic here in Adelaide. I think being a smaller community, they get to support you. And I think, like I said, being in Adelaide and playing for Adelaide City, which was a great club in those times, it gives you good opportunities here. And that's been fantastic for me in that respect. I went back after I'd finished playing at the NSL and the A-League and coached there for 15 years. Enjoyed my time there as well. So, yeah, it's been
many hours, many
so
hours.
I think I'd be probably one of the longest serving there in terms of time spent at the club.
Yeah. So, and when you spend your life in and around football clubs, you get to feel everything about it, right? It's the highs, the lows, the spats, everything, right? Becomes part of your life. The beauty of football. And so you move across to Perth. So it was sort of quite an interesting move. How did that come about, where you finished playing at Adelaide City and you go across to Perth, which they were quite innovative club, and I think they'd already been involved in the league a couple of years before you went across. So why the move from Adelaide City over to Perth Glory?
I think at the time, obviously as a player you want to win a lot of stuff, and Adelaide City had been fantastic, but I just felt that the game was growing, and I think Adelaide City had come to a point where I think everything was still great at the club and that, but I'm not sure that they were going to win stuff. And my decision to go was based on a lot of things. I mean, I was getting older. It was an opportunity to be full-time professional. So it was a full-time job over there. Yeah, it was just the right, it was just the right thing to do. There was nothing against Adelaide City. Like I said, Adelaide City, I still came back and coached them in there. I upset some people at the beginning, but I think they understood my reasons for leaving. But I still kept in contact with them. They were, close friends. Like I said, the chairman was close friends of mine. It was just a decision that I think in the end was the best decision that I made. Gave me an opportunity, like I said, to grow up with my family. My kids were young at the time. They got to experience, you get to see them, so most people don't get to do that, do they? So, yeah, I just think it was a good opportunity, like I said at the time. And I got no regrets about doing that one.
And you form arguably one of the most dangerous strike partnerships in NSL history. I mean, so there's been many fantastic strike partnerships, but the partnership that you forged there at Perth Glory with Bobby was just venomous. I mean, what was that combination like? Yeah,
I just think we just complemented each other. I just think, like I said, I wasn't the most technical player. Bobby was highly technical. Bobby had great vision. I just knew that when playing with him, if I made forward runs again, I was a striker that liked to play on the shoulder and look for balls in behind him. And it just suited us because we really didn't get in the way of each other. Bobby would always look for short balls, get on the ball, because like I said, technically really good player, had a really good vision. And so probably gave him an opportunity to open up his game and at the same time help me as well. So I think it's just a good compliment for each other. We just helped each other without really knowing it because we both really didn't have the same game.
Mm-hmm. And you played, so I remember you being, quite fast over a short distance. And when you were running, because you had a number of fast players that you played with along the line. So Viet was very fast. I remember you being fast. So where did you line up when you were doing sprints over like 15 yards or, half pitch? Where would you finish in your?
I was the fastest. I would have been the fastest, I would have think. I used to do sprinting when I was younger too. I went to Colgate Commonwealth Games as well in school for 100-meter sprint. So, I was all right. I was very sharp over that. I think I was all right over 50.
Yeah. And so that playing off the shoulder, timing your run, and just breaking, that was your game. And then, you still could you could still shoot very direct as a striker. Exactly what you'd want your strikers to be today. Score goals. So
But I think that's stopped now. The problem that we have at this day and age is the directness is not there anymore. I was a very direct player. So if you played with me and obviously we had coaches that understood that, we looked to score goals. Now we tend to not look forward all the time. We tend to, shift it sometimes too much and forget that the object of the game is to score goals. And if you have a look now, even in the A-League, there's not really many, although now McLaren's back, but there hasn't been anybody for a long time that scores a lot of goals. And to be fair to Jamie, he's quite direct striker. He's always looking, playing on the shoulder. We need more players like that.
Yeah, I think we're starting to come full circle. There's, I would agree, probably the last maybe even 5 to 10 years, we look to play, possession-based football and a lot of sideways, backwards movement to hold the ball. But I think I think we're starting to bring back the philosophy of, the objective of football is to score goals, entertain crowds. People understand that football is an entertainment. It's not just about a result, but you've got to attract crowds. So I think teams are trying to play a little bit more direct, and I think we'll come full circle. This notion of just bouncing for the sake of keeping the ball and then losing it, it's boring to watch. And I think coaches are trying to. I hear when coaches talk, they're trying to instigate penetration over possession. Is that your philosophy when you coach as well?
Yeah, I just, I like to win games. And I think as a player, I like to win. And I think you've got to pick your moments when to go direct and when to be able to keep possession. And I think, being able to find that balance is the secret. And I think what you find is that there's some teams that overplay and there's some are too direct. And I think, these players need to be educated and to see the opportunity to go forward when it's on and when it's not, to keep the ball. And, like I said, we don't get a lot of strikers now where they're making forward runs and they're looking to get in behind. It's too much played everything in front. And I'd like to see that change. And, I'd like to see the days where you have goal scorers and you got high goal scorers back in our league.
For Perth, you end up winning a couple of championships, and you lose. You were there when you lost one or two as well. But Perth was always very, very, very strong side. Always at the top of the league. 10,000 plus supporters in that shed there. I remember going to a game as a South Melbourne away supporter. We just got drowned out. I think there was like 20 or 30 of us, and like you got 5,000-6,000, British guys singing their lungs off. What does it feel like? What did that Perth supporter base mean to you on the pitch?
Yeah, I think that was one of the attractions that you went there, because it was almost like being overseas. And they've probably lost a little bit now with the shed, but back then it was phenomenal. And I think it was an advantage. We played at night, Saturday nights. It was a full house. It was exciting to go to the game. Just to even going to the game, you had people everywhere. So, yeah, it was always a plus. And I think, sometimes it was in our favour, but then also it lifted the other teams because they weren't used to that, but they actually enjoyed it, playing in front of people. And I thought that's probably what triggered the change in the game. Perth Glory being able to do that signified that if they can do that, why can't they do that more in other states? And I think that's how, the reform came and changing to A-League and that because of what Perth Glory did.
Yeah, it was definitely the Perth Glory became the blueprint to the A-League. So you win back-to-back championships there at Perth. What was the feel? Was it really good? I mean, people talk about championship winning sides, about it being harmony off the pitch. What would you say was it really good social cohesion within that Perth Glory side?
No, I think it was just highly competitive. I think, what they did is they created an environment that the club wanted to win and players that came there wanted to win. And when you have that sort of mentality, the training, everything was just highly competitive. And as I said, it's enjoyable to be around, it's enjoyable to be at. And when everybody's on the same page, everybody gets along. Yeah, surely there's some good and bad days when you have that sort of environment, but that sort of environment is what I looked for and I enjoyed, because you knew everybody was there for the right reasons, and winning was it. That's what they wanted to do, and that's why they kept getting the best players they possibly could at each time.
And so you were a top goal scorer for many, many seasons, right? So did many other clubs come knocking and wanting your services?
I never really wanted to leave Adelaide City. I was happy at Adelaide City at the time.
Okay.
And then I guess I was at Perth Glory, and Perth Glory was the best club to be at the time. So not really. Like I said, I was happy. I mean, even with Adelaide City, I was always happy at Adelaide City, even scoring the goals. It was a good club. And I think sometimes what people got to understand is in order to play well, you have to be happy at where you are. And Adelaide City, like I said, had a good bunch of boys. We played good football, and it suited me. And, you know, sometimes, you know, people always talk about chasing money, but sometimes you see a lot of good players go to clubs for financial reasons, and their football deteriorates because the style and the environment doesn't suit them. And sometimes you have to find a place that you're happy. And like I said, I was happy at Adelaide City, and even with Perth Glory at the same, I was happy there, and we ended up scoring plenty of goals, enjoying football.
You're one of the few players that makes that transition, plays both NSL. You've played your vast majority of your career in the NSL, but you also transition across to the A-League. There's a period of time in between. So what did you do in between that playing for in the NSL? Because there was quite a, I think there was when the NSL stopped and the A-League started, there was that reform and, you know, starting a whole new league. And I remember everybody had the same kits, right?
Yeah.
So just a different color. So a bit of a bizarre. Was it Reebok who was the sponsor of the first year of the A-League?
That was the first one.
Yes. So what did you do in between that?
So what happened was when the NSL became defunct, or when it was going to cease to exist, I actually went back to Adelaide City, and again, my former chairman was still at Adelaide City. He asked me to play a coach. So so I went back and play a coach at Adelaide City for that year, and then obviously the A-League started, and I was in a position I didn't want to move again. So I actually only played A-League. I played my times where I played for Perth, Brisbane and Mariners, I was still based here. So I would train and that out of here and just fly in for the game and fly back.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't move. I actually stayed here and did that.
You were fly out. So not even at any training sessions, or just for the game?
I mean, if because I was working Monday to Friday, if the game was on a Saturday, flying Friday, have one session on a Friday. So
that's fascinating. I had no idea. I mean, so you obviously you're coming towards the tail in your career, and you got signed a couple of times as a replacement, or someone would get injured and you'd get a call up, you know, trying to do a job for some of these sides, like you said. What did you think of the standard that first year, the standard of the A-League? Any difference between the NSL, better, worse?
I think they're all good. You know, it's hard to compare any standards because things change. You know, remember NSL times, if you go back through the NSL, players that we had playing in our NSL, if you went in this day and age, you probably couldn't afford to bring them from overseas, the quality that they were. But because the game wasn't as big as what it is now, we were able to entice good foreigners. Now, like I said, the A-League started, and I thought the A-League was strong. I think it was, you know, quite localized again, a lot of local players. I think the standard hadn't changed much. I think it went through a period where it dropped off a little bit. Yeah. And that's all due, again, it's always due to the financial aspects of the game. You know, money brings the best players, and all over the world, they're earning big dollars. They're not going to come to the A-League if they're not going to earn good money. And I think, you know, people need to understand that our game is where it is. And unless it financially improves, you can't bring better players. And I think that's what the game is.
And so this notion of fly in, fly out. So after your NSL, because you've always been a very fit player, like you said, you grew up being a sprinter. What was your quickest 100 time?
11 seconds.
Wow.
So
yeah, quick. Who would you find which defenders gave you the biggest trouble, and what would they do to try and hold you down?
that's a long time ago. But look, I thought, depending on what sort of game it was, obviously if the game was open, it was more of an advantage to me. If it was tighter and it was, quite compact, most defenders were quite difficult. I think, like I said, back in those days, a lot more grabbing and that than there is these days, shirt pulling and that. So that was all part of the game, more physical as well, some of the tackles. So back then there was, like I said, if you go back even in Melbourne, you had George Hanna. I know I was there at the time, but then even when I left, you had him, you had Theo Salamis, all older players, which were very good. You had Birchie, which was at Sydney Olympic. You had, there was heaps, Ian Gray. There was heaps of good defenders back then as well. So, yeah, it's hard for me to remember. I didn't really think about defenders who were the better ones. I just was more concerned about scoring goals.
That notion of what do you think makes a good striker? I mean, other than the obvious, is it that hunger, wanting it? What?
I don't know. Like I said, it's interesting because in my time of coaching, you can teach the process of finishing, but for the player to actually have the composure to do that at the right time is the difficult thing. And I think that's why it's difficult to teach, I think, to score goals, because even have an understanding that in the box where to go and make the runs, like you can have certain drills that you teach players to do, but they've got to see it and want it, and things change all the time in games. Nothing's black and white, and I think that's the hard thing about scoring goals. You can't just say run to the back post, go to the front post, ball's going to come there. It doesn't happen, and sometimes you need to see the moments where you can adjust your runs to get on the end of stuff. And I think for me, anything in the box, I felt that I had a good understanding of where the ball would end up, and I think that helped me a lot.
Your time for Australia, you played a number of games with, you would have played a number of those games where we played some of those island countries and we spanked them, plenty, dozen goals or 10 plus goals. I think, we, your likes of your Tongas, your Fijis, whatnot, and you banging goals in for fun, but you also played against some decent sides in a Confederations Cup. I think you played Mexico, and where for the Socceroos, where did you find the really big games? Where, when your mind goes back to playing in the Socceroos?
They're all big games, like I said. We lost to Fiji at one stage. Don't forget, when we were playing, and everybody keeps saying, look, I'm not disagreeing, some of the teams were shocking, right? But we weren't full-time. We were working. We train at night. We then have to leave our jobs. Then, it wasn't that easy. It's not like now where all these players are full-time. I mean, they're playing, don't forget, even with this Asian Confederation, there's some really weak sides there where teams are smashing teams as well. But back in our day, I mean, most of our boys were all working. It wasn't a full-time soccer gig. So, I mean, that's the situation that we're in, and that's why I said some of the big games, I think every game's a big game. Any time you put a Guernsey on, I think it's, you should be proud, and you got to do your best for the country at the time.
Mm-hmm. And who did you room with when you were part of the Aussie squad?
The same guys, either Carl would be there and Jason was there at the same time. So we probably pretty much had similar paths, we'd play for the national teams, and then we'd be either in the national team, like I said, and then in the same club teams as well.
And so you got to choose your own roomie. So
yeah. So we'd always be similar guys.
And in the 90s, so talk to me about the managers at the time that are coaching. How did they influence your game style? Like an Eddie Thompson versus Zoran Matic. What's the difference?
Yeah, well, to be fair, when I went to Adelaide City, I had they had an assistant coach, Johnny Perrin, was there at the time, and I don't know if people remember Johnny. Johnny was a very good player, and I came from hitting the ball like as much power. I was always I was a good finisher, but he actually enhanced my finishing. He taught me how to bend the instep, no need to do laces, and like he was a big influence on my finishing career. And the same as Zoran was, Eddie Thompson was. Look, I think what you find is that every coach has an impact on your career, and I think what you find is you just take bits and pieces that you feel that can help you, and the others you listen and maybe you don't take on board. And I just think, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of good coaches, and that's probably because I was always at some of the better clubs and they're always winning mentality. So yeah, like I said, I've been fortunate to have a lot of good coaches, and you get to take a lot out of it.
So that notion of family, your father being involved at an early age and influencing your football, how does he guide you throughout your playing time? Is it when do you sort of stop listening to dad and go, no,
my dad was big on work ethic. Like we used to train hard, my brother and I. So we used to run, like in the off season. He loved athletics. My dad loved athletics as well. So, and he was a very fit person as well. So he'd be doing the running with us. So as kids growing up, we'd be running, we'd be doing everything. So he'd come home from work and we'd be down at the park with him. So I was fortunate that he took a strong interest in us. And then it was probably around 16, 17 where probably had to relax because there was more fights at the dinner table, good fights, mind you, and it probably upset the family more. So there was probably a time where I said to him I didn't want him to come anymore, but my mum said that he'd sneak out and come watch the game. But that's just part and parcel. His attitude was, like I said, he wanted the best for you and he'd push you as hard as he can. And I think there comes a time where you probably just, enough was enough for me. I just didn't need the extra pressure from him, but he's been fantastic. If he didn't do what he did, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing.
Were you part of the Socceroo squad when Despotovsky was in that squad and Venables had the side? Were you also part of that?
Part of the Venables one.
Yeah. Maybe you can comment on what's it like having a big name coach. Because at the time we had a fantastic side and very unlucky not to qualify in that game. I mean, you had a teammate where he left on the bench, arguably to me an all-time Socceroo great, Milan Ivanovic, and we got him on the bench, not playing. What was his character like in the Australian dressing room? Venables.
Terry Venables, or
yes.
But he was a big name person, so I think he had a persona about him that he oozed confidence, and I think he gave. And I think from where we come from with coaches, he was, tactically very good. But I just think his persona gave that feeling that the team was going to win. He had that charisma. He did bring to the team was a professional professionalism that nothing had been seen. We hadn't seen for years, and I thought, like I said, he was really good, and you learnt a lot from him.
So you've gone into coaching, and you said you take bits and bobs from each player and mold it into your own sort of thinking and your views of the game. You've gone on to do your badges and whatnot and coached at a decent level. What advice do you have for, we're talking to that, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy or girl now on the fringe of trying to make that next level, whatever level they're playing, whether it's in state leagues or the NPL level or trying to make it in that A-League squad. or WE League squad? What advice do you have for them?
I think you just have to understand that everything's never going to go your way. You need to work as hard as you possibly can, give yourself every chance to be successful, so that knowing that when you reflect back on what you've done, that if you don't make it, that you've given yourself every chance to have given yourself every chance to have made it, if that makes sense. So, because the game is about opinions, and sometimes there's been many a player that I think should have made it that didn't make it. And that is the game. And I think you need to understand that. And I think, like I said, the other thing is to be adaptable. You know, don't be a one position player, because I say that to my players a lot now. Be able to play 3 or 4 positions. That then the coach, you always a chance to play. If you're just a striker and that's all you can play, and if they've got the best striker and you're waiting your turn, that means you sit out the game. So I think players need to be more adaptable, so that you can play in multiple positions, and then that becomes easier for the coach, especially if you are able to play those positions well.
Fantastic words of wisdom. Damian, Mori, you're absolutely trailblazer, scored goals for fun. I think you were a 5 or 6-time NSL top goal scorer. Congratulations on your fantastic career, both in the NSL A League and for the Socceroos. And you, for many years to come, I think you'll still be on the All-Australian all-time goal scoring record. So thank you for your contribution to Australian football, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much.
Hey guys, we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our wonderful guest. If you like this type of content and would like to see more, how about you hit the like and subscribe button? And have a fantastic day.